Hi, everybody. How you doing? This I'm still this thing has every time I use it, it does something a little different. Anyhow, Fahrenheit 451. How are you? Glad to see you. Nino, caliber 3135. Seth Morley, Nino again, and ask something. Okay, Jovan, how you doing, man? Tony Co, hi. All right. Listen, I apologize. I just been pushing buttons. I think goes sort of nuts on me. Hi, Christos and Carlos and Mike. How you doing? Um, oh, good. Hey, Mike. Everything. How's your watch working? Hey, Redskins Pride. How's it going? Crappy. Hi. Okay. Today. Hey, Clive. How's it going, man? Let's see. Mazine 44. How are you? Okie doke. Hey, Turkey Vulture. Um, all right. Today, what I want to talk about, I've got on my, let's see what watch is it. It's FP Journe Resonance, uh, Chronomet Resonance. Now, if I look at this watch, it's not very practical, right? It's the dials are relatively small and so forth, but it sort of represents the kind of watches that I want to talk about today, but ones that we can afford. Okay, that's the big thing. Um, let's talk about that. Hubsy, how you doing? Uh, this is I suppose this is what my dilemma is. Hey, Bruce, how's it going? Hey, Bruce, did you get a hold of Kaz? Okay, you guys connected? Uh, PSK 31. I don't know how to pronounce that. Okay. Well, let's Wrangler. The church's fried chicken called. Right. Okay. All right. Uh, let's let's see. Hey, longshoreman. Um, let's talk about this, okay? I've been looking at different things, and the question is yeah, all right, caliber 3135. What is affordable? Ah, boy, I sure know what's not affordable. What I can't buy is not affordable. Um, so I'm gonna say 5,000 is something that is savable. I'm not saying that all of us have that much money that we can blow on a watch, but it's not 20,000, and it's certainly not 40 or 70,000 that a lot of these watches cost. Hey, Tetrix, Jay. uh, I guess the question is it possible, and how is it possible, and what would a watch look like that was a that was a good watch. Now, FP Journe produces, I think, less than 900 watches a year, and he's got his own shop, and then he's got other kinds of things to do. And what I was doing, I was reading about this one uh, guy who was making watches, and he was talking about sort of how an independent watchmaker sort of got the idea they're going to be independent, they're going to make these, and these are, I'm talking about really good watchmakers, okay? And the what they wanted was that they have some ideas. They say, nobody's done this since Breguet, for example, this being one example. And the reason I'm using Breguet is because FP Journe is a big FPJ. FPJ is bringing, excuse me, FP, FP Journe is an example of a guy who started about 20 years ago, 1999, and so he wants to do things that weren't being done. And so he started off with a couple really interesting watches. I think one of them was a tourbillon, and the other one was this I keep saying Renaissance rather than Resonance. And so he does these, okay? And it was a struggle at first, but finally he made it. And then he made the uh, Chronomet Souverain, and then he made the Chronomet Blue. Now, the Chronomet Blue started off as a watch for an entry level. Okay, he's gonna make it out of tantalum and charge less than he charged for either the gold or the platinum Chronomet. Okay, but still, he provided some really nice watches, and they were unique in a lot of ways. The parallel double barrels, for example, in the Chronomet series, or the Chronomet Souverain series, I should say, which includes the blue and the Holland and Holland and all of those other ones. Okay, so we have these nice watches, but these things, the prices are nuts. Okay, hi Koi, and so what I suppose that I'm looking for is, what would a watch look like that could be sold for $5,000 or less, that had the kind of craftsmanship that would be nice to have. And talking about craftsmanship, what do we mean? What does that involve? Well, the number one thing, it involves the movement. But when you stop to think about the movement, what's really involved in a three-hand watch? Okay, you have a gear train, you got a barrel to wind the thing up, you got the mainspring, the gear chain goes down to the escapement. Escapement releases the hairspring, which keeps all of the timing right. All right, and basically that's what you got on all the different watches that we have. And so what we end up doing when we want something that's like specially done, we pay a lot of money for it. But the question is, do we have to? Hey, Blake Star, what's up, man? So this is hey, Truth Fears Julie. What do we do? What would it look like? I mean, how is it possible? And let me just start off with one thing. Um, Ophion is a company that we had a little review of it, and the case is made by a company called Voutilanen Callan. Now, the cases, I saw those cases, I thought, my God, those are those are really nice cases, and they were made out of stainless steel. Okay, so that would certainly at least check off one of the check boxes as far as I'm concerned about what would be a really, a well-crafted watch. Now, the hands and the dial, similarly, they had somebody who was really good at that, a craftsman, to do those. I had a guy tell me that I was asking about a dial that used the numbers that were in the old classic, the Fritz Lang film, Metropolis, and I hadn't seen those before. And so he said, "Yeah, this guy could do it for you. It would be an enamel, and let's see, it would be enamel, and then there would be the lettering would be the enamel that you wanted." And this guy was the grandson of the enameler for the Emperor of China. So he goes way back in watchmaking. And it would cost me $500 for 50 dials. Okay, we're still not talking about a lot of money. In looking at this one watchmaker, he who made incredible watches, he and two other guys each plunked down 40,000 euro. Okay. And they started making watches, and they went to one watch show what they had made, and they were broke. I mean, that was like they went through 120,000 euro like nothing. And so I guess then I've been Clyde. You bring up Kadoki. He took the 60 ETA 6598 and put an insane amount of carving and decoration into it. Well, he did more than that. He did. But like I said, is that he came up with his own movement. He started with that. So did Richard Harbering. But these guys, they have talent. And the reason I know that, one, first of all, Harbering was one of the early people who were cut out of access to ETA. And so that was why I developed the A11. The Kadoki, on the other hand, he wanted to be a member of the Association of Independent Watchmakers, the thing that F.P. Journe started, and he was on the waiting list, and he finally got in, but he wouldn't be allowed in if all he did was to do a knockoff of an ETA 6598. The 6598, whether he had a 3 or 2.5 hertz movement, depended on which one he used. The older one, the one I like, is 2.5 hertz. Okay. Okay. There. So let's. Hey, Flip and Zippo. So let's. What I'm thinking of is that F.P. Journe made, I think, about 300 of these over, I don't know how many years, but he made about 300 of them. Okay. And then in 2005, he decided to give them all a gold. The plates and bridges of the movement were made out of gold. Okay. So he quit making these that had brass plates and movements. And so they became relatively rare. Strange thing is that where you have brass more valuable than gold, but that happens. All right. So where are we in terms of that? Okay, now let's go back to what Ophion has done. Now the next thing they did, and this is associated with Festina, which is like Richemont, but it's smaller and not quite as rich. But it's like a holding company, for lack of a better term. Hi, Tim. And so what we're dealing with is like we have a larger group, and what they did, they took an existing movement, Teletime. Teletime went under. They took their movement, they fixed it up, and then they manufactured it using this company that took everything, that all of the different parts that they needed, and manufactured them and gave them a very nice finish. All right. So the finish, this is the other thing too. Well, how do they do the finish? They're big on robotics. If you end up, you can program a robot to do all kinds of different things. And they were using some kind of robotic production means on it. And so now the ones they had, I imagine they looked all the same because they told the robots to make them all the same. But they didn't have to. They could have one of the things in the Rolf Lang watch we've been passing around. Anybody who has it and had looked at the movement and looked at the bridges and the different parts in there, realize there's all kinds of things that aren't just perfect. In other words, they're sort of little what I will call craftsman's mistakes or craftsman's variations. Now, if you take somebody like Rolf Lang and have him make 20 watches, you're going to have 20 different watches. By the same token, you could have a computer programmed so that they say, okay, make this one, just tweak it a little this way or tweak it a little that way. That's not hard. You could put in a random number generator without even breathing hard to program something like that. And then you have all of the machinery. And so you end up with something that looks like very, very hand done. I'll put it that way. Okay, let's see. Yeah, yep. It has something. Yeah, you're right about the. He developed it. He did use these different movements, and he did get help from Harbring. I think that at one time, in fact, he used the A11 in some of his earlier models, and then he came up with what he called the Kadoki One, and then he used the same Kadoki One in a watch that he had a little night and day thing on, and won the a Grand Prix award. So I mean, that's and boom, suddenly he's a member of the in good standing. Okay, the dial is just a bit plain. Okay. All right, typey with one hand. Hey, truth fears, coffee in the other. Coffee. All right. um, okay, so let's. Hey, Joseph. Yeah, Thomas Ninkrist, vice versa. Two rose gold, excellent movement, craftsmanship for the money. I agree. Here's another guy. This is from Dornberth and Son. I got this. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but they sent me this card talking about their watches and so forth. And they're another sort of an interesting combination of things that they're doing something, and okay. Well, so the question is that instead of paying a lot of money, and we do, let's face it, I mean, we pay a heck of a lot of money for craftsmanship that is at best okay. Um, and a lot of people buy because of the reputation or because of investment and things like that. And that's a whole other thing. If you take a company like Patek Philippe and you have what they're cranking out 50,000 watches a year. That's a lot of watches. Are they handmade? I don't think so. Are they well made? Yes, indeed. They're very well made. But so too is Maurice Lacroix. Excellent made watches, extremely well made. Do they have their own movements? Maybe. They claim they do. All right, so let's have some ideas. Come on, you guys. I've been talking a lot. Let's hear what you have to say. I'm on the fence about door booths. They do the same as IWC and pretending that the movements are made in house than they are. Do we give Dornberth a pass because they're small? Good question. That's a good point. I don't know. What the real question is that this is where things get tricky. Okay, some watches or some movements that really have nothing to do with the original. We'll take some kind of standard ETA movement, but what they'll do is that they'll make sure that all of the pins and things like that that go into the case are in the same arrangement. Does that make it an ETA movement? I don't think so. What it does, it makes it a movement that can use the same, let's say, little holes that you have in dials and fit the same kind of cases that the ETA would fit, and in that way they can produce their own movement, and we're able to do these things. This is why, as a pretentious watchmaker, I can get either a Chinese ST36 or an ETA 6497 and use the same dial and use the same case. But are they the same movements? I don't think so. But are they very, very similar? Yes. Is one a clone of the other? Absolutely, or as much as possible. Okay, can you talk about VC56, Tim? Yeah, the VC56 is, oh man, oh boy, the VC56. Everybody knows about the 56. There's really a couple different levels of the Vacheron Constantin 56. One level is that they simply throw in Valflurier movement. Now, according to Vacheron Constantin, they did a lot of work on it themselves to make it different from the bomb at Mercier. What do they call it? I forgot the name of it. The bomb flute or something like that, that they claim is in house, but in fact is Valflurier. That is another issue. That's a whole other thing. I spent a lot of time earlier this morning digging up this Jacques Droz movement. Somebody sent me an email and said, "Well, what do you think of this and the movement?" And so I started digging around for it, and it turned out that since Jacques Droz is owned by Swats, they figured, well, maybe they're putting ETAs in there. Well, they're not. They put in what is called Blancpain manufacture, which in fact is a Frederic Piguet, and Frederic Piguet used to own Blancpain, not the other way around. So when Swatch bought one, it got both of them, and so then put Frederic Piguet under the Blancpain end of the business, and so then their movements that were Frederic Piguet became Blancpain manufacturer. Now, are those good movements? I don't know. I had a Frederic Piguet, and in fact, I still have it in my little Vacheron Constantin, and it works fine. So, but is that where do we go with this? Okay, what do you got? Even IPH, they're rooted. Let me see. Aaron from Bixel Watches is a master craftsman producing 510 watches a year. Robots or former watchmakers employing watchmakers are not. Fahrenheit 451. Well, okay. I'm trying to come up with some ideas. You take, for example, you take Roger Smith. If you haven't seen him, take a look at him. Roger Smith shows how he makes watches, and he starts with a rod of gold and cranks the thing out and flattens it out and makes the case, and then he makes the rest of the watch. So it's a kind of thing that, I mean, from that point, then he charges what, $100,000 or more for each watch and has a waiting list of 15 years. That this is I'm not expecting that level of high craftsmanship, that every one of them starts with a rod of gold or a rod of whatever. Hey, Christos, how you doing? How about Ox and Junior? Ox and Ox. I'm going to say this wrong. I apologize for everybody who's a German speaker, but that's the way it goes. Ox und Junior is really Dr. somebody Olstein, I think, if I'm not mistaken. They just had a bunch of people who were like really top ranked watchmakers leave, not because there was any kind of conflict. They just had other things they wanted to do. I don't know. How's the IWC big pilot movement? I don't know. The problem with IWC, they're not very transparent about what's in their watches. You can pretty well tell if there's a big price difference between one watch and another. One's an ETA and the other one is IWC manufactured. But since they're not, all they got to do is just say, look, this is the base of our movement, and this is what we did to it, and I'd be fine with them. But I don't trust them, to tell you the truth. I don't trust any watchmaker that does that, and I don't like it either. So there. They went to Osley State High. Okay. I think the Quadrille is better. I agree, Clyde. I agree. That is a nice watch. That's a very nice watch. See, the difference between, let's say, the 56 has, I think, like 4 versions. 2 of them at the bottom have the Valflurier, and they're relatively inexpensive. And the other ones in the 56 group are in-house Vacheron Constantin. To me, that's crazy. If you're going to have an entry level, have them all the same. You know, they're half the price of what your other ones are. Now the Quadrille, that thing is fantastic because it's got exactly the same movement as the overseas, except the overseas I think retails for around 20,000. The Quadrille retails around 15, but you can pick them up new for around 10 or 11. So you know that's a heck of a good deal. All right, let's get some more ideas. Oh, rat. Okay, we can go a little more because I got a late start. Okay, hi, Ultraman, one red. What's your opinion on the Nomos Lux? Oh, let's see. Now they got. Let me give you my opinion on this series that Nomos calls their high horology. I think they're fantastic. Okay. That may include the Lux. I forgot what the various details were. You miss your overseas first generation. Admitted. I do. I do. I miss my first generation overseas. That was the one I had to trade in to get my wife an anniversary watch. So, you know. Hey, Dr. A and B. Um, Nomos needs to reduce their lug length. All right. Any other sins they've committed? Okay. Well, anyway, I think this is something we can think about. Or you know we can be aware of. Some companies like that I see as very good companies because they still have their watchmaker with them. I mean, their key watchmaker. And that's why I like Parmigiani. Michel Parmigiani is the guy who designs their movements. Then they send them on to Vacheron, and Vacheron makes these really high quality movements. That is another model that I would consider are the ones with the we talked about another time where you have the see what is it the UWD 33.1. That movement, God, that's a gorgeous movement that was designed by Marco Lang before he left uh, Lang and Heim. Okay, considering buying a Vulcane. Hey, by the way, too, they got a bunch of Vulcanes on sale now at what what modern time or time of something or other. I forget what they're called. Um, Time of desperation, maybe, but they really dropped the prices a lot, and they had a whole bunch of Vulcanes for sale there, and they have an in-house movement. Really interesting watch. Okay, let's see. Yeah, VC lowest level 56. Yeah, that's the one with the Val Fleurier movement in it. Vulcane, yeah. Isn't that what I said? All right. Touch of modern. That's right, Nino. I always forget. Hey, Forbin, how's it going? There's not one watchmaker. They have clean rooms of a dozen or more workers, and that's just Patek. I don't agree with that, Forbin. I think that H. Moser at Sea probably has to me, they make watches that are very nice. By the way, I got to tell you a story. This is my Patek Philippe story, okay? I had on my Patek Philippe the other day. It was getting its day to get worn, and I had to go out in the snow and do some work, I don't know, moving snow and ice and crap that they have out there. And so I thought, well, I better put on my my Seiko 5. My Seiko 5 is the one that, you know, I want to do something. I'm going to Man, I had the worst ice fall I've ever had. All of a sudden, you know, there was usually in the grass are pretty safe, but what happened? We had a melt and then it refroze, and so what it looked like grass wasn't. It was just an ice pack, and I went flying. And but fortunately, I had on my Seiko 5, and it held up great. On the other hand, my my Fitbit gave me about 250 more steps because of that. Anyway. Well, listen, Germanic elves. Oh, Forbin has little Germanic elves. All right. Maybe so. I like those little elves though. All right, let's see. Just order one and return it. I don't know. Okay. All right. Hey, truthers, thank you for asking. You're the one who asked. I hurt myself, man. That hurts. If you've ever slid on ice and suddenly you're standing up, and the next thing you know, you're on your back. Uh, this People have broken bones and stuff like that. Fortunately, I have a little extra weight that I happen to have on. I think I landed on what they in the whale business they call blubber. That helped. Um, anyway, okay, guys. Well, listen. Tomorrow, really interesting watch collection. You're not going to think so initially when you just see it, but I give it a time. I learned so much from this watch collection. It's not an expensive one, but it is really very interesting. So anyway, hope to see you then. Thank you all for coming, and I'm sorry it's a little late, but I can quit a little late, and so I think we're okay. Take care. See you around.